Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat 101 with your legal BFF, Girija Patel. I am so happy that you've joined me in today's episode of Law Chat 101. What are we talking about today? We're going to talk about how to legally and properly exit an employee or an independent contractor relationship in your business. So these are some of the top 5 things that you could do. Of course, there's a lot more other stuff, but really these are things that I personally had to experience and walk through in my business as well. And so I'm really just sharing with you my own personal experience and also some legalese as well. Now, like always, there's a couple things that I ask you to do. Number 1, my ask is that, listen, do me a favor. Subscribe, share the love over here, and comment, because you know what? When you leave reviews, when you subscribe, or when you share that love with your friends and family, this information that I'm sharing with you becomes readily available, and also it comes into the algorithms where more people can see it. And so I would truly appreciate that. And number 2 is that the information that I am sharing with you today is for educational purposes only. And it is very generic in nature. So if there's something that you have in particular for your questions, please go seek a professional. If you're living in Texas, contact GBP Law. We have an amazing subscription program also where you know the prices, you know what the expectations are, and there's nothing hidden, only you're getting your business solid. Okay, let's get started. When we have employees in our businesses, we hope that they stay, and we hope that those relationships last a long time. And even with independent contractors, sometimes they're there for a season, sometimes they're there for longer than just 3 months or even a day, and that relationship can last longer. But there are times when things do happen and friction is caused, or there's something unexpected that happens that may not be, a friction per se, but it's a cause for termination. And so when those things are happening, there's a reason for an early termination where it's unexpected and you have to end that relationship sooner than expected. And so sometimes we're unprepared for it, and sometimes it happens, right away, and things just happen right away. Because if you're living in Texas, it's an at-will employment. So unless your contract says something else, it's at will. So at any given point in time, the employer can fire somebody, or the employee can resign, or the contractor can say, peace out, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And so what do we do at that point? Because it can be startling. It can be just completely an end of something that you are doing. There's some ways to properly handle that, and that way it'll kind of ease that burden and make sure that as a business owner, your content, the work, the material, your passwords, all that stuff is protected, and also you have access to it, and it's not going away with the employee or with the contractor that you've hired. And I know we sometimes learn the hard way, and the hard way cannot be the best way all the time. And so that's why I'm sharing some of my personal experience tips with you right now. So number 1, what do we need to do is actually set those expectations up in the beginning, where you have already set that standard and the process and the procedures in the beginning of your business operations. So if somebody has access or passwords or something, there's a list of all that stuff where you as a business owner have access to it. So you know where that information is sitting. You also know what that information is and what that password might be. And you also have the ability to completely cancel accessibility within your operation. So whatever tools you might be using, again, you have accessibility to those tools to cancel somebody else's access into that program, or the back end of the things that you are doing. So have certain processes already integrated into your system in the back end. So again, the systems and the processes is very important, and having a standardized process and procedure in your business is very important. So write them down, and so that way there is no confusion. And even the exit process, like how does somebody exit, have that SOP written down so you actually follow it and you don't forget the process yourself. You don't forget the steps that you need to follow. And this is something that is absolutely coming from personal experience, because I didn't have that. And as a lawyer, as a business owner, I was just like, oh my goodness, what have I done? Because I've totally put myself in a very sticky situation where it was really hard for me to get out of, and also very hard for me to figure out the behind the scenes, some of the stuff, and it's just unacceptable. And so have your SOPs written out. The SOPs of one, when you're onboarding somebody, all the process that takes into the onboarding, what kind of passwords you're creating for them. So have an ongoing list, what access this particular person has into your business, have that also written out. And then have an exit strategy SOP as well. Have a standardized process for that too. Number two, have a running list of what your employee is doing or what that contractor is doing, the job description of their position as well. And of course, these job descriptions definitely evolve with time. They're not necessarily fixed in stone. So as it's evolving, write it down. This does require some extra seconds or minutes of the week that you can allocate, or have somebody else that is doing the work, your manager or your assistant or somebody that can allocate some time during the week to write that list down. But your eyes as a business owner has to go on it. You cannot avoid it, you cannot ignore it, you cannot pretend like somebody else is taking care of it. So while somebody else is taking care of it, maybe, perhaps, but your eyes need to still be on it, and make sure that you can see it, and make sure that you are check marking A-OK to it. Number three, what you need to do is, if there's contention in that business relationship with that employee or the contractor, or if there has been some areas that you have just not been okay or unhappy with, or they might have been unhappy with, make sure there's documentation for it. You know, generally with contractors, you don't have evaluations with them, but there's definitely a moment where you can have a conversation about feedback, and that feedback can be followed up with an email that you're writing just to follow it up with that. So they know and you know that you're on the same page, what the conversation comprised of, what your expectations are, because there's definitely a time for cure. I don't believe in the cancel culture. I know that a lot of people want to just say, okay, I'm not going to work here anymore, I don't like this, and that's okay. But there are times when you do need to have time for cure, because sometimes people just don't know that something is happening. And unless you make them aware of it, then there's no opportunity to make it better. There's no opportunity for rehabilitation. There's no opportunity for cure. And we definitely want to give that space as well. So give that opportunity for cure, but the way to do that is to actually have those conversations. Those conversations may not be easy, they may be hard, but they need to be objective. They need to have something written out where they could actually see it, you know, on paper also. They can visualize it as well. If you're employees, you should have regular evaluations with your employees. Have that part of your SOPs and your procedures in your business. I know I keep saying SOPs all the time, but they're standardized operating procedures in your business. So have that in there. Even if you have one employee, do it, because when you start having a good practice, then that way you also will start integrating that from the beginning, and it'll grow with you, and it's not something you'll have to implement later on and make it a habit. It's so much harder to make a habit when you're bigger. It's easier when you're small, and you can just keep integrating that habit as you grow. So have that evaluation. So whether you do the evaluations every quarter, every half yearly, or once a year, which you could do also. I do suggest doing it more than once a year, so people have an idea and have a base, a standard base where they can start from, and then you can see metrics of growth or improvements from that level. And so, you know, having it half a year and then at the end of the year is a great idea as well. Number four, when somebody is actually exiting, you need to make sure that you now are going back to that checklist that you wrote in the beginning when you first onboarded them, and you talked about what their job description is, all the different tasks that they're doing, and what kind of tools or software they have access to. So a lot of us use software and tools such as Trello, or even Instagram, social media passwords, and, you know, accessibility into them. You want to see all the things that that particular person has access to. You also want to see if they have access through your email, your password, or is it access through a different type of third party, such as the Vault or something else that, you know, shares passwords, or is it through something such as they're just creating their own access and username and accessibility and password from there. So go back into that, go through that entire list, and go through one by one and take their accessibility out. Generally, that needs to be done ASAP. Not to say that there's something wrong or that they might do something wrong, but the idea is to keep the integrity of your business and the integrity of your memberships that you might have, or your documentations or proprietary information, and keep it to yourself and not allow accessibility to people who are not part of your system, not part of your company. And so you can take that access away, because the last thing you want is somebody else coming in, hacking into your system and doing something wrong. And Not to say that they're going to do that, but you don't want to have the opportunity to allow them to do that as well. So go through that list, take away access, take away the passwords, change the passwords that you have to change. And that way you know that the only eyes that are on that particular documents or the particular account are of the people that are part of your company, or the people in your company that are supposed to see it, that are supposed to have access to it. Other things that you also want to do is, if this is somebody that is in front of your business as a salesperson or a PR person that a lot of people interact with, or anybody that has a lot of interaction with other people that could be like your customers or your vendors, you also want to let them know that this person is not there anymore, and you might want to divert them to a different person that's working in your company or yourself at that point in time. So just give awareness. Now, I know a lot of companies don't necessarily do that, and it's very strategic in nature. So this is something that if it works for you, if it sits well with your company, you do that. If it's somebody that is involved with sales or having direct connection with your clients, and sometimes clients, depending on the kind of work that you're doing for them, it can be just it's like a Band-Aid being ripped off, and it can be a little painful. So you might have to give that kind of relationship some TLC and not just rip the Band-Aid and say, good day to you. So be thoughtful, be strategic on all of those sides as well. Number 5, the most important thing is to have a termination contract. That contract says that you are no longer employing this XYZ person, and that if you have given them some type of compensation, that compensation is good, and they're not going to come back for any other benefits or come back for any other type of employment benefits that they're going to try to claim from the unemployment. And so you want to have a termination contract that kind of defines the termination, defines the terms of exit as well. And so that kind of just seals the deal and negates whatever contracts you might have had in the past, and just says that those are done. And now this business relationship is done also, and everybody is free to go and do whatever they want. It's always difficult to see changes happening in your business, especially when things seem that they're working perfectly and fine, or when you've been working really closely with anybody in your business relationship, whether it's a client, whether it's an employee, independent contractor, vendor, or other type of business relationships out there. But there's always ways to make that pain a little bit less and to mitigate the impact onto your business. So I hope these 5 tips were helpful to you. And if they were, again, subscribe, follow, share the love, tag us on Instagram so others can see that, all the information that we're sharing out there, because I know it's amazing and I know it's super helpful for everyone out there as well. So share the love, please, because that's really going to help others to also gain knowledge for their business. And again, if you have these questions and if you're wondering if this is good for you, or, if your processes are good for your business, then reach out to GBP Law if you're in the Texas area. And that way we can, help you out and talk to you. So sign up for your discovery call. And until later, check out Law Chat with Girija, and I will see you then. Bye.